in the chat room now. Just make sure that it's all coming through okay, because guarantee you it balls up later on. So I'll wait for them to let me know. Just type yes or oh, there we go. Yeah, they can hear us. Excellent. Good
lovely
stuff. Okay. Well, hello everyone. Oh, fuck off, Lee. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Shonky Lab. I'm Elton, and this week I am joined by guest producers Mr. Jim Moon.
Hello, folks.
And Mr. Lee Harvey.
Hello.
The Black Dog resident troll, who seems to be trolling me from my own chat room.
And dick. Resident boxing champ.
Oh yeah, the champ as well.
I lost.
You went in the boxing ring, which makes you more of a winner than the rest of us lot. The only ring I've been was a ring of roses, and that was a long time ago.
Lovely. Okay, well, we're here to talk about what I like to think as a serious topic. It's probably our first dive into serious topics since that we've spoken about biscuits and sandwiches and Prometheus and other things that are just stupid and silly. This week I've decided the topic will be depression. Depression, how we loathe you so much. So badly. But there's no reference on what we're going to be talking about. It could be lighthearted, it could be dark. I've got a standby story just in case it gets a bit too dark.
Hooray!
So that's like our safety parachute, shall we say. And so hopefully it might go all well. But we do have the chat room going. It's heaving. It's like people coming along and watching EastEnders and listening to three idiots talk about depression and make themselves feel better about each other. So, if you want to join us in the chat room in future episodes, then please pop along to mixler.com/RogueTwoMedia and you can join in all the fun there and type away to your heart's content. Right. With all that out the way for now, at least. Gentlemen, the subject, depression. I'm guessing that we've all suffered from it from time to time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
When you say, like, from time to time, do you mean sort of episodes or just ongoing or what?
Well, I know I just said this to you guys, but I feel like this is going to be a therapy session. It's because sometimes people just don't understand about the subject. I've been mocked at work about this. I've had fun poked out of me about this, and people don't really seem to grasp it unless they're dealing with it, and sometimes it can be too much to deal with as well. And yeah, this is going to be just me getting stuff off my chest to you guys about what's going on. But yeah, I have. Do you suffer from it? That's one thing that I'm wondering to answer. You know, have I been suffering, or is it just there, or is it one thing that just floats around with me, or is it always going to be with me, and it's part of me that makes me me? And so I don't know how you guys feel about that. You know, has it always been there for you guys, or what?
Well, for me, to give you a quick rundown of my history with depression, I had my first depressive episode when I was 18 in my first year at college. I might have been depressed before, but when you're a teenager, to be honest, it's hard to tell with the mood swings you're having on. But I think we'll probably touch on what depression is. But I had my first major depression. I didn't know it was depression. I didn't realize how far down a dark path I'd gone. And after a suicide attempt, I with a very short stay in mental hospital and and seeing a counsellor for a good while, putting my head back together after a massive breakdown.
Wow.
That really came out of the blue. I didn't think to get help because I didn't know. You don't realize when you're first going through a depression what depression is. And that's because it isn't like people think it is. I got better. I'd have depressive episodes now and again, and it was something I was terrified of. And it caught up with me again in 1994 quite badly. I struggled out of that. Then it hit me again in the end of the 90s. And when I look back, realized I'd actually had a period of, from about 94 onwards, of having depressive spells, but then having manic up phases. Mm-hmm. Now, people who know me find that quite amusing because you think manic people are people running around like the Tasmanian devil, so blah, 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 like this. But, like, I'm a man of many interests. So when I was in my manic phases, I was reading like 10 books a week, doing 3 paintings a week, working, going out and socializing, and sleeping maybe 2 or 3 hours a night. Mm-hmm. And I thought when I was in that mode, I thought I was the king of the world. I felt I was bulletproof. I had my shit together. I was getting loads done. I was doing brilliantly. And then one day you'd wake up and bang, you'd be tumbling again.
Yeah.
And by the end of the 90s, actually, it is quite common with sort of having that sort of up-down cycle. Eventually, like a boom and bust cycle in economy, you hit rock bottom and, the system breaks. And then I hit like a semi-permanent depression, which saw me go through quite a few bad years. Not helped by I lost 3 friends to suicide. It was all depression related at the turn of the millennium. And had another huge depressive breakdown in 2010, which led to me having moving essentially back home, not to my mum's, back to my hometown. And I got help, and I had lots of medication for a while. I had some very good counselors, and that led me to where I am today, which is now kind of eking out a living, being a podcaster, but generally being a lot happier with myself, and feel kind of, although I still have down phases, I can now, I've been through this mill so many times, I can manage it very well. And I'll talk probably later about, the practical things in my experience, and from knowing other people as well, of, what you can do about depression, because it's tough and everyone's different. But I found there are a few common things that, can really, really make a difference.
Oh, that's interesting. I might pick your brains about that. Definitely. Definitely. Lee, what about yourself?
Right. Well, it's kind of ongoing still at the moment. Only really kicked off properly within the last sort of 2 years. I think it's about slightly over 18 months ago, maybe, that I actually was diagnosed. But it could have been going on for decades before that.
Is that because...
like Jim was saying, if you don't know about it or don't know the signs or anything like that, you don't sort of do anything about it. And my ex-girlfriend now, but the girl that I was living with at the time was always trying to get me to do CBT things, and which I'm sure we'll come across later on, and saying, there's all these problems, because she was quite big on sort of working in mental health and things like that. And I just thought, no, that's not the problem. It's just me or whatever else. It was only after sort of splitting up with her and moving to where I am now and starting a new job and loads of things going on, and through work, when I was sort of getting very upset all the time and being very angry about stuff, and the managers saying, like, you need to go to the doctors and things like that we actually sort of diagnosed it and started working on it, really.
So when you had managers turning around and saying about this, is it because that they'd noticed certain signs, or is it because that they were they good managers that were helping you through?
Because I'd be properly upset, like crying. I'm quite a sort of sensitive and emotional person anyway. So when you have these sort of depressive episodes, it's on. I show my heart on my sleeve. You can see it. I don't need. It's not like the subtle little signs. It's blindingly obvious.
Yeah.
And I would cry a lot about rubbish and nonsense and also some bad things, I suppose. It was pretty obvious. And that's since then, so like I say, about 18 months, we've been trying all these different things to try and deal with it. I mean, we've cancelled a few shows for me supposed to be doing this a couple of times because I've messaged you like in the afternoon and said I can't do it tonight.
Yeah.
In fact, we cancelled this one last week, didn't we? Because when I messaged you and said I can't do it tonight, and he was like, "That's next week." Oh, awesome! Right?
Yeah, you blew your load on that one, didn't you?
So yeah, and I'm sure we'll go into it through the night, but it is a problem with people understanding.
Yeah.
For all the will in the world, I'll try not to go into too much detail because I don't want to be throwing my sort of job under the bus. But people want to do the right thing. But because there isn't that understanding, they often don't do, not on purpose. It's not like, I haven't had a problem like you've had, Elton, where it's been like blatant, just people being horrible.
Yeah.
Just people saying the wrong thing or not the wrong thing, but because of how your mind is working, you interpret it the wrong way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you've had a lot of struggles in that sense.
Yeah, well, I feel along with depression, there's a lot of emotion that comes along with it as well.
Yeah.
And that can either be, with me, it can either be very fiery or just I can close myself up very tightly. And you said about cancelling maybe one or two of these episodes.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, I think sometimes it is a struggle for me to get all the stuff ready and do it because I think I've said this on many podcasts about me looking forward to going to somewhere. And then when it comes to that thing, I can't go to it.
Oh, yes. I know.
Yeah.
And I'm like that with, it seems strange because I fucking love doing this and doing it with all you guys. The only one I don't have trouble is Black Dog, because it's not me putting it all together. It's not me arranging it. It's me just turning up and spouting waffle for 3 or 4 hours, which, what better thing can I do than sit around with 3 other mates and just spout waffle and do fart jokes and stuff like that? It's brilliant. And it is kind of therapy for me on a weekly basis. But I don't struggle to get onto that one. It's doing this and doing other ones that I do as well. I think even with the Grand Prix podcast, I love talking about that stuff. But sometimes I struggle to get to it, and sometimes I'm hoping to get that message saying I can't do it tonight. I'm like, brilliant, excellent, that's brilliant.
Is it an anxiety thing?
I think so. But
Because I get anxious if it's going to be just you and me, I'm more likely to get too worked up about that than if I know someone else is going to be on.
Right.
If that makes sense. If there's 3 or more people.
Yep.
Then it's fine because you can kind of just sit there and not say anything.
Yeah, you can have,
or rather, you know that you can do that, and therefore you're not as worried, and you end up chatting away like there's no tomorrow anyway. But when it's just the 2 of us, you start worrying about, are we going to have enough to say? Is there going to be like big dead silences and things like that? And that's more likely to start getting anxious and start to not want to do it.
Yeah. Well, would I be right in saying that they go hand in hand? At some points, they do with me, anyway.
Oh, definitely. I mean, when I've been at my worst, one of the difficult things to explain to people about depression is why you can't do things and why you're always pulling out of things. And I mean, I've got quite a few friends, and I've talked to a lot of people over the years with depression. And one of the hardest things to understand is you can be in a situation where you're at home and you've run out of milk. Or if you're a smoker, you've run out of cigarettes and you want a cup of tea, or you want a fag, or you need a loaf of bread, or you need to go to the cash machine, but you're terrified to leave the house and you couldn't explain to anyone why. It's totally irrational. And it seems the hardest thing in the world. You can sit arguing with yourself for hours just to try and get yourself to go out of the house. And the best way I could come up to explain it to someone who's not been there, because it's so irrational. I mean, it's hard for other people to understand because you don't understand yourself why something simple's suddenly filling you with terror. And the best way I can describe it, you say, right, you've got to go to the shops. So everyone goes, I can do that fine. And then you say, yes, but it's raining. and you have to go naked. And there's a sniper on the rooftops going to take pot shots at you. Because that's how you, when you're down, a lot of anxiety comes because you feel so vulnerable and you're so anxious, and you can be anxious about anything. And you can't just talk yourself through it. So, well, don't be silly. I won't get hit by a car, because that anxiety just doesn't go away because it's a totally irrational anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's kind of, the little voice in your brain. I mean, a lot of people who are depressed, have this little voice that goes, "Oh, but what if this? What if that?"
Yeah.
If you've ever been up at 3 a.m, going over old stuff in your mind, that's what's being depressed like all the time when you're on your bad day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say, I find it very, very easy to come up with any reason as to why you can't do something.
Oh, it's so easy.
And for it to be, in your head, for it to be perfectly logical.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and it would confuddle anyone else who is confronted with that excuse, and they're like, "What? No, come on, give over." There's been a time where I think I was meant to meet Andy and Darren at a cosplay thing, and I wanted to take Kimmy along with me, and it was all planned out, and I knew the route I had to take, but I was getting a bit worried. For some reason, I got worried that I might lose her on the train. And once that got into my head, I didn't create an argument, but I was so insistent about a certain thing that it caused an argument. And then it was, right, we're not going. And after that, I felt fine. And I know that's a bad thing, but that's what I was going through at that time. I was just hoping for other people to stop me from going, and then I'd feel better about myself, because in my head, it's not me stopping it, it's someone else stopping it, or a situation has arisen and made me stop. And I feel very guilty about many things like that. But I feel sometimes it's something I can't control and don't really understand why I feel like that. And it can come out the blue as well. It really can. I went to France last year with my son and my brother-in-law, and I was looking forward to it up until maybe the day before, and then started getting panicky about it and worrying about things. But it wasn't too bad, because I said to him, "You're organising it. I can't organise things, because I will balls it up and it'll just throw a spanner in the works. I'll do all the driving, that's fine, but that organisational thing does my head in." And that took a lot of pressure off of it. And I think when we go on holiday, Amanda organises 99% of that stuff as well. Because I can't deal with it. I don't know why. It is the anxiety of screwing it up, or what could possibly go wrong. And there are a million things that could go wrong before anything does go wrong. And nothing will go wrong, but it's just in my bloody head that something might.
Because you convinced yourself so much that that it could happen, or it will happen.
Yeah. Can I just say where my depression started from? It was, I suppose it was 92, 93. And I was going through that teenager thing of growing up, finding the first pubic hair. Oh, lovely. Oh, look, hair on my chest. Oh, I'm trying to grow some hair on my chin as well. Excellent stuff. And
You've still got none on your head, though.
Yeah, thanks.
After all that time.
Taking the mickey. Oh, okay, fine. Yeah, that's another thing. Banter. I can do it with mates and friends and close people, but when it's people that I don't know, have just met, and they're bantering with me, I'm like, no, fuck off, mate. I don't know you. Hate it. But yeah, I was at school, and I struggled with acne for a couple of years, and I'd been to the doctors, and it cleared up at some point. I was on some steroids. They put me on some tablets. They put me on some magical rubs, and it started getting worse and worse, to the point where my shoulders were covered. And it wasn't just normal, just spots. This was real deep tissue damage. This was real heavy shit, to the point where I was taken up to a hospital and they put gauze on me and wrapped me in gauze and said, okay, right, bring him back tomorrow and we'll sort him out. And so I went home, went to bed, and everything on my back dried up onto these gauze. Then they took me back to the hospital and then just ripped all of this stuff off. And all these scabs and pus, and it was disgusting. It stunk and I was in an absolute mess. And some people might be able to see little marks on my arms when I speak to you in the pub. I've got no problems with it now, but that is pretty much all over the tops of my shoulders and down the back. And that was a bad day, shall I say. That was the first time my mum heard me shout fuck off in a hospital full of other children, which was wonderful. But they were hurting me and it was caning. And the nurses were great and everyone was great, but that was a low point for me. Then another low point from that, because I was on tablets as well. I don't think they were working very well for me. They wanted me to keep it clean, so I had to have clean film on my back to keep it all the germs out. And that is one depressing thing. If you're knocking around with your mates playing football and they hear this funny noise, and you're like, oh, I don't know what that was. And it's like clean film on your back making noise. And then they get all a bit funny with it. And that brings you down a bit more. And then after that, the doctors put me on a pill and it was called Roaccutane. And it was only after I'd stopped taking it that they found this was causing depression and suicides in teenagers who were taking it. And I was on a pretty hefty dosage of this stuff. And it was, like you guys say, you don't know your first bout of it. And I was in full swing of this thing. And plus I was going through the teenager stuff as well, which was getting me down. What else happened? Oh yeah, two of my idols died within a month of each other, which just ruined it. And yeah, I was on that for a couple of years, that Roaccutane stuff, and they just kept on pumping me full of it. And then I went cold turkey on it, and they just took me straight off of it. I think after my mum and dad read a couple of things about it, it's like, no, get him off of that. And I think I was all right up until maybe the mid 2000s. I had a little dip then. But it didn't last for long. I think it was about 6 months or so. But I kind of knew what it was now because I could relate back to my first bout. And then the one I'm going through now, I think I've been going through it maybe 5 years. And when I first noticed it when work was getting really stressful and I was being fucked over royally on that job. And I could feel it. I knew all the signs. I knew in my head what it was, and I could feel what it was. And I was biting the inside of my mouth a lot more. I was biting my tongue a lot more. I have little sores that come up every now and again because I'm chewing on it constantly. I was waking up in the middle of the night and my jaw was aching. And there was a funny thing. My tongue, I'd wake up and look at my tongue and it'd have imprints of my teeth from the inside where I've been pushing my tongue into my teeth so hard that it was the shape of my teeth. It was really, really weird. And yes, I'm going through that at the moment, which is, it has its good days and bad days. I've noticed with the medication I'm on now, what am I on now? I'm on, citralopram, I think it is.
Yes. I think I've been on that one.
Yeah, I tried that one.
And right, I haven't had many side effects on this. It does seem to work. It takes an edge off of things. It doesn't make things great. It doesn't make things bad. It just uniformly makes things even in my head. Although I do have a tendency to want to drive my van off into a tree from time to time. But the only problems I have with it is it makes me fucking yawn for no reason whatsoever. And I'll get like a metallic yawn. I don't know if you guys have ever had that at all.
I think I know what you mean. That kind of sudden involuntary, proper, like almost cartoon.
Yeah.
And you get almost like a horrible aftertaste from it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's what I get. And it dies away after maybe 2 weeks or so on it. But if I ever forget to take one pill, let's say I forget to take one tomorrow morning, I'll take it in the afternoon. The next morning, I'll be yawning because all my feng shui has been kicked out of wonk, and it just acts weird on me. But I don't want to stay on it, if you know what I mean. I want to get off of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my history with it anyway.
Because that's something I struggled with at the start. I really didn't want to take any drugs or anything like that.
Yeah, I resisted it for years because when I was first going to get help, it was it was pre-Prozac, and I just heard endless horror stories about people on what they used to call the old tricyclics. These drugs that just either make you hyper or they turn you into a cabbage. Yeah, or both, and the kind of, and people sort of, being hooked on them and unable to get off them. And it's kind of, but there is that kind of, there is a big social stigma about taking medicine for mental health. Which is nonsense. I mean, if you have a cold, people are going, give me the Lemsips, give me anything. But, just to take a pill because, your brain's misfiring and putting you on a down all the time, that's kind of like, oh, no. And I mean, friends, when I said I was going to try Prozac, oh, God, no. And a couple got really arsey with me, like, you shouldn't do that, blah, blah, blah. And it's kind of, well, it can't be any worse than I am now. As it turned out, I mean, I think with medication I read an article about a neuroscientist who did say, well, to be honest, we're not much further on really than just, hitting the radio with a hammer if it's not working right. We're getting better, but the thing is, everybody's different, and what will work for one person won't work for another. I mean, when I went to Prozac, I found kind of, like Elton said, it takes the edge off, but it also sort of put me in this sort of cotton wool sort of limbo. And I was on it for ages, and I noticed actually I'm still really depressed.
Yeah.
What's the use of this other than just sort of screwing with my concentration and making it even harder to get things done because I'm, you've just got this vague woolliness in your mind. Like when you sort of wake up after a deep sleep and it's hard to focus. I found Prozac all the time.
Oh, and that was the feeling of it.
Yeah. It was just kind of, it's very subtle and it kind of, and I just stuck at it. Well, it just do me good. Must be doing me good. It does sort of take the edge off, but then I realized, well, I'm actually still having really, really bad black jags. You know what I mean? And eventually, I should see my doctor. And but obviously, when you're sort of depressed, you argue yourself out of going to see the doctor. So it took a while, but I got there. Then I changed to a different medication, and then that was a bit better. And then things got worse, and needed more medication. Eventually got a combination that seemed to, work for me. But it was trial and error. I mean, when anyone talks to me, I always say, don't be afraid to take the pills. And also, but importantly, if they ain't working out for you, don't just keep taking them. Go back to your doctor and say, this isn't working. He won't bollock you, or she won't bollock you. They'll just try something else. And, that's perfectly acceptable and it's fine. And I really always stress that because, I mean, there are, for some people, a short course of pills can work wonders, really can. For other people, it's a longer battle, but it's trial and error, and they know that, and you won't be any trouble for wanting to change.
Yeah. You saying about there is some sort of stigma in there. I suppose I've got my own little stigma with myself taking it. Frog Stomper in the chat room she turned around and said, why do I want to get off the medication, Elton, if it works? She also says, I'm perfectly at peace with the fact that I will probably always take medication. I'm lazy. I'm rubbish at remembering to take it. I always remember that I've not taken it, but I never remember to take it. if that makes any sense at all. I'll be driving down the road, going to work in the morning, go, oh, bollocks, I haven't taken it. And it'll be the same place every time.
I actually have one of those little things, that old people have with the days of the week on it, the little plastic boxes.
Oh, the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah, with all the pills. In fact, it's actually
They work.
Well, yeah, it's a bit of a bonus because I started taking sort of vitamins and cod liver oil and things because whatever will fit into the box, because it's kind of, well, I have to take something. I might as well just take a load of other things at the same time. So I'm probably a lot healthier now because of these things.
There was a stage at school when I was on steroids for certain things, and I for some reason I'd put the steroid blister pack, which had Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, in my pocket in my blazer, and it had fallen out at school, and someone had found it in my class and was mucking around with it. And I was at an all-boys school, and someone screamed out, "Oh, who's on the pill?" I just clammed up and didn't say anything, and I lost about 4 days worth of pills because of it. Just because I didn't want the piss taken out of me. But yeah. I was a 14, 15-year-old on pills. I didn't really understand why I was on these pills. But yeah, they had the Monday to Friday thing on the back of them as well. And it did look like the pill. Yeah. But, oh man.
I think I always felt like it was like a weakness to be taking them. Because Jim was saying, you take Lemsip for a cold. I don't really. You just try and get through it all. Whatever the problem is, you just keep going for as long as you can without taking anything.
You're a roughy tufty.
Well, it goes back to the conversation we were having about boxing. Yeah, I've just got some kind of death wish. I have been called a masochist before, yeah. So when it comes to taking apart from it being a bit of a pain in the arse, Elton, like you say, to remember and things like that, it was kind of like, well, I don't need that. I'll get through it. And also sort of you hear stories about people becoming addicted to things. I know now because that's not really the case, but at the time, it's like, no, I don't want that. I can get through. I can do it. It's fine.
Well, it's always portrayed in the media of people with mental health problems. They're always gibbering wrecks and literally rattling because they're carrying that many pills, and they're kind of portrayed like junkies. That's the problem, and that's the problem. A lot of people, the barrier people have to taking medication, because there is, you absorb that just from pop culture, and it's kind of like, when it's you should bloody hell, do I have to? And I mean, I felt it, but I've been taking medication all my life for my asthma, so I've always sort of been quite good about, I need some medicine, I have to have it, and I know it makes me better. But even for me, it took me a good few years before that. All right, I will try some medication for the depression. But I said that is a lot to do with, I think, the popular sort of perception, and so that stigma around mental illness that I think is improving. I think certainly in the last 10 years, it's getting better from what it was. And people are getting a bit more open about it, but there's still, I think, a long way to go. And there's still a lot of people who just sort of think, everyone's just being like Morrissey, just pull your socks up and you'll be fine. And it's kind of, you wouldn't say that to someone with a broken leg, would you?
No. Well, that's like a very good friend of mine at work does a lot of stuff looking after me, but she always tells me this whenever you feel bad or feel like you're being a burden to people around, or think that you're causing problems to managers and things like that. It's like reminding you that if someone had a bad back, they would have to follow certain procedures and do these kinds of things. It's not any different. Mm-hmm. And just keep trying to remind yourself.
Do you know, I've never even thought about it that way. Yeah. Like I said, I suppose I have got a stigma about it because I've always taken pills for headaches or migraines or bad backs or anything like that. I'm one of the people that, straight to the box and take one out and have it. And there have been times where I've tried to be a brave little soldier and go through a headache or go through a cold without taking anything, and I'll end up always resorting to something like that. But when it came to getting pills, it was maybe 5 years ago now that I first went up to the doctor and said, look, I went up to him and I showed him where I was chewing on my mouth and my tongue, and he went, yeah, do you know what? You're stressed to high heaven. And I just sat there and just cried. And I'm not one of these, I'm not a geezer, blokey guy. I'm not like that. Or I don't try to come across like that. But I find it very hard to cry about anything apart from Marley and Me. And because, dude, that is a sucker punch. That really is. But I was in the doctor's and it was a relief. It was telling someone that could understand about that. Sat down, and I wasn't expecting that either. I think it caught me by surprise when I sat down and started crying, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I need something to help me through this. And so he was very kind, and he said, right, you can take this. By the way, would you like a couple of weeks off work? And I went, I'll tell you what, give us a week off work, because I don't want to screw over the guy that I'm working with and don't want him to be lumbered with it all. And I thought, okay, fine. If I take a week off work, I'll get paid for that and then come back and I'm not screwing over a guy. And went back to work, explained what was going on at work, and they went, oh, okay, fine. Got back to work and found out I hadn't been paid a week's wages. And I questioned it. I went, but I was signed off. And went, well, if he'd signed you off for 2 weeks, you would have got all that money. But because he only signed you off for 1 week, you're not getting any of that money at all. Oh, so I'm trying to help someone out and not screw over, and I'm getting penalized for it. And it was just that frustration. I didn't understand what was going on then. And I spent a lot of my time with my head in my hands going, what the hell is going on? I'm only trying to help people, even though I need to help myself. And then I had managers at work coming up to me, and because they could see what was going on, I'd explained what was going on. They were looking at me a bit differently, speaking to me a bit differently. But then they'd also try and lighten it by saying, oh yeah, I woke up like you this morning. I felt a bit down. I went, do you know what? When I wake up, I don't feel down. It's that I don't feel anything. And that is the troubling thing, that he didn't really understand. You might feel down, and sometimes I might feel down about a certain thing, but I know that that's not depression. It's like the difference between a headache and a migraine. They're two totally different things. But, do you guys find that as well?
Yeah, a lot. It's a case of, it's not just feeling down, is it? It's, I don't want to get out of bed because I am so worried about what is going to happen if I get out of bed. I know if I stay where I am, nothing's going to happen and I'll be warm and safe, and that's fine. And that's what I think people don't get when you've had sort of deadlines for things and said, like, I'm not sure when I can get this done, or people are asking, things need to be done, things need to happen by this time. When is it going to happen? And it's like, I can't give you an answer because of what I'm going through, the illness and things like that. And I don't think they quite understand. It isn't a case of, oh, I'm just not going to do it because I'm feeling a bit down or a bit lazy that day.
Yeah.
It's like, I won't even eat. Never mind do what you're asking me to do. I won't even get out of bed and eat.
Well, when I'm at work, you do, and I know it's the same for other people. You can't even bear opening the curtains because you almost feel like you're sensitive to the light. And it's just that urge just to stay and make yourself. I think it's almost like a primal sort of animal response to stay stock still somewhere dark and make yourself very small. Yeah. Because, your brain is telling you everything is against you. And I always sort of try to explain depression isn't about feeling sad. It isn't about feeling, oh, woe is me with my gladioli in my pants.
Yeah.
It's not that. It's actually being unable to react to things normally.
Yeah.
It's kind of, it's like the opposite of taking a marvelous psychedelic drug. Instead of everything becoming colourful and more interesting, everything becomes dark and threatening. And instead of feeling with euphoria, you're filled with nameless dread from all corners, that, you can't stop. And, you're on a good day, that bottoms out as just that kind of numbness. But I mean, having gone through with my depressions of having these sort of cycles of going up and down, I noticed there's kind of, you have the up bit where you're really together. You're getting things together. You know what I mean? You're doing well. You're full of energy. And then you get to the phase where kind of everything is just nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then you go a bit further down and then everything's terrifying and you don't want to open the curtains or go out the house. And, it's really, it can change as well so quickly. That's frightening. I mean, I find these days, because I manage my depression, I can put a brake on it at the numbness. And, I know for me, I find, I mean, you said, you don't even eat. And this is one of the things I've noticed depression, not just in me, but other people. It's a condition that is self-perpetuating.
Yeah.
Because when you're really down, you don't have any appetite. You miss meals. And also you want to sleep and you're dog tired, but you can't.
Yeah.
And if you just take anyone who doesn't have depression, make them miss 3 meals and keep them up 3 nights, they'll be depressed as buggery, I guarantee you.
Yeah.
And they'll be seeing things come out the walls, come to get them. But you know what I mean? That's what people don't realize is it's unless maybe you're diabetic, but there's a similarity there because, if you're depression makes you physically run down, which sort of create conditions for it to flourish. It puts you in a low energy state and it keeps you there by lowering your appetite, by stealing your sleep. And one of the ways I found to combat it is when I get to that sort of a numb point, I immediately make sure I start eating every 4 hours.
Yeah.
Handy tip, get a slow cooker. You can put some food on, chop up some meat and veg or whatever, put it in your slow cooker on the morning before things have got terrible, and you will have an evening meal without having to do anything. That was very handy for me because I found by the end of the day, I'd wore myself out that much fretting and having skits out. I just really didn't want to eat at all. I could be bothered. I had the energy to cook. And so you eat badly and that makes the next day worse and so forth. And I mean, as I say to anyone who's sort of suffering depression, where the things you can't fight that irrational anxiety. That's very hard. And you can spend a lot of energy trying to fight it. And it's like punching yourself in the face, really. But what you can do is you can try and make sure you get good sleep and eat well. It's not a catch-all cure, but it does help.
Yeah. So what, between you two, what are your signs that you know that you're going to be having a bad day then? Is it just immediately straight out the bed, or is it because you've had a bad night's sleep the night before, or you're going to bed late? Or what is it for you? Because sometimes I struggle to even notice the signs.
I think it there'll be a trigger at some point. Something will happen, or some conversation or something. And for me, it might not actually immediately appear, but it'll be several days. It will slowly spiral down, if that makes sense. So I'll have a conversation with somebody and they'll say something, and then that'll make me start to question myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it starts. And then by the end of the week, I'd be like not coming into work, or, not leaving my bed, and just being completely out of being able to do anything from the one little thing. But because I haven't been dealing with it for that long, I'm still trying to figure out what all these things are. One of the first things is definitely tiredness, like Jim was saying, because if you're tired, you haven't got the energy to fight against these things.
Yeah.
It's just easier to believe what your brain is telling you because you haven't got the energy to fight against that.
Yeah.
I always feel it's like having an old computer, and what depression is doing, it starts opening more and more programs until you're running slower and slower and slower, and you can't do anything on any of the windows that are open.
Yeah.
That's kind of the analogy I've sort of come up with. And it is that kind of, I mean, I find like you kind of, I know when it's starting because these little signs I notice, because like normally, like for me, you know, my day-to-day life is podcasting or writing an article. And when I hit publish and it goes up, I normally feel good, job done. I achieved something. Brilliant. And I know that'll, you know, it'll entertain people, you know, will enjoy it. And I feel I've done some good in the world. And I get a little buzz. However, if my mood's wobbling, I press that button. I don't feel anything. And then maybe a few days later, someone will say something and I think, are they being funny? Or it'll just, it's like kind of, if your life is a tune playing nicely, suddenly you hear a bum note. And then you hear another one until it starts looking discordant. Mm. Yeah. And they're my sort of warning signs. So there's little things of where, particularly where I get oversensitive, where someone, you know, you see someone makes a remark online, you think, you think, I'm overreacting there. That's, you know what I mean? There's nothing there at all. That's a warning sign for me.
I mean, how long is it taking you to work all these things out? Because like I said, I'm still trying to work it out. I mean, my friend, has me recording things on a tally now just to try and notice when I'm thinking in a way that I'm rubbish, or for whatever reason I've interpreted it as me being terrible and not the situation or the other person or whatever. And I think I've only been doing it for about 3 days and it's already up to like 15. And that's just for when I'm at work. That's not even at home. So just trying to work out what the things are and when you start thinking that way. How long did it take you to figure that all out?
It took me quite a while because I mean, for years I was going up and down, and I was very much kind of, when I was on up, I thought I've sorted myself out. I'm cured again. Hooray.
Yeah, that's the problem happening at the moment.
Then you'd crash again. It was only when I got to a point where I accepted that was part of the problem. And I mean, so when the manic bits started to go, I was missing them and I didn't understand why I couldn't get it back again.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know, a lot of people say this, they really do miss having the manic things because you do feel amazing and you get so much done. And you can, you know, if you've got, you know, hobbies and interests or whatever and things you can pour that energy into, you can achieve an awful lot. For some people, being manic is appalling. I mean, one of my friends who's now passed away, he was very much an outdoorsy kind of guy, social guy. And when he hit a manic phase, he would just literally go out and party solidly and go traveling. You know what I mean? Live at a breakneck sort of pace. And then he'd crash and burn. And, but you know, it's I still miss the manic things, but it's a matter of trying to balance it out to feel like, you know, now sometimes I get a touch of it and I realize I've got to slow down because if you do too much, I will burn out. I will lose energy. But, you know, it has took me a long time. I mean, I didn't really, I think, really start to get a grip on the depression until about 2011, 2012. And that's when I started keeping a diary, a food diary and a sleep diary.
Right.
Because you know, you have no appetite. You begin to realize how badly you are eating. And so I the problem is often I'm too tired to eat or I just can't face cooking. So, you know, got the slow cooker. I made sure I had a fruit bowl and, you know, sort of instant food I could just unzip and open, you know, like banana. Brilliant. That's good for me, you know, and, you know, but it did take an awful long time. And it is kind of, I think it made a tremendous difference because I think, for me, it was kind of, I sort of came up with this strategy I called like little victories because I was getting nothing done. I mean, didn't dare leave the house. I got really, really bad. And in 2010, I had a shocking year as well. I mean, one of my friends committed suicide. I got thrown out of my house. I didn't have a job. I had money problems. The person I was living with was doing my head in, the guy I was sharing a house with, and everything was just bad across the board. I had good reason to be depressed without having the depression as well.
Yeah.
And it was kind of, I started keeping a list of kind of positive things I've done today. And a lot of them were simple things like I had breakfast, I had a shower. And a friend of mine who suffered with as well, he did the same thing. And we both laugh about it sort of now because it is kind of mad to have a to-do list that has things people just take as normal, like brush your teeth on it. But when you're really down in the pits, it's kind of a little victory like that can actually, well, you can just turn around and say, well, fuck you. At least I got that done today. Yeah. And then you maybe can do a bit more, you know what I mean? And that's a way you can sort of literally build a little ladder out of the pit.
Mm.
How did you find doing those things when you were having good days and things were going well? Because that's what keeps tripping me up is I find it when you're in that sort of middle phase, not quite completely despair, but just a bit above that, you find it easy to do those things. And it does work, and it makes you feel better, and you write stuff and you know, be grateful. You're writing some things down that you're grateful about, or like you say, some little victories that you had in that day. But when you're having good days,
yeah,
you think, oh, it's fine. Oh, yeah, well, that's done. I'm fine. And then don't do that, and then you end up slipping back into it again.
It is constant vigilance, I'm afraid. I mean, yeah. I started, stop, until the rest. Well, look, this is working. I've got to just keep at it until I think if you get to a certain point with it, if you can do it long enough, it becomes like a habit, and you just do it mentally. You don't have to do a physical list anymore.
Right.
And I find kind of at a certain point, sometimes sort of setting yourself a to-do list is the worst thing you can do. You don't get over ambitious. I mean, it might sound pathetic that your victory list for the day is get up, brush teeth, eat.
Yeah.
But if you go, I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to go, you know, go shopping, and then I'm going to, you know, fix the shed, and then I'm going to do this, you know, you end up with a list that by the time you've done the first one, you're terrified to do the rest. You know, so not overburdening yourself on the list is very important. You know, you start simple and small, and, you know, but it's that thing you got to kind of, the hardest thing I think for depressive people is, and the hard thing about depression is you've got to be kind to yourself. And when you're depressed, you don't really feel like being kind to yourself, and all your instincts are leading you into behavior that isn't being good to yourself.
No, you're the person who you want to be good to the least, really, aren't you?
Yeah.
Well, that's it. Yeah, yeah. As I say, it's like it's a condition that seems to self-replicate itself.
Yeah, I find I overcompensate by trying to make things good with other things in the life, or with my kids. I'll try and make things good, and I will accidentally end up annoying one of them. And once I've annoyed them, they're like, oh fuck, I shouldn't have even bothered, shouldn't have even tried. And then I sit on my own and just sulk like a massive baby. And it's the only way I can get it out of my system is just by being a massive kid and crossing my arms and sulking. And it does help, but I'm the last person I want to help. I want to make other people happy before myself. And then I feel if I make them happy, then that might in turn make me feel happy. But sometimes you need to look at yourself before you do anything like that.
Well, very much so.
Yeah, I was going to say, I find that I don't deserve to be nice to myself. You know, I'm a terrible person. So therefore, I can look after everyone else, but I don't deserve it myself. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Now that makes total sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
that's the kind of twisted logic that you fall into, and in your mind, that's perfectly reasonable.
Well, this is it. I mean, I think this is a very common thing. I mean, it's kind of people. I mean, the number of people I've talked to, you know, say one of the worst things is when you're still awake at 3 a.m. You know you need to get to sleep, but you can't because your brain is holding like a kangaroo court in your head, going through all the things you've done wrong ever.
Yeah.
Including some you hadn't even thought of before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing what your memory or your brain can pull out of its arse Just, and you didn't even think about for years and years and years. And then you suddenly, oh shit. Oh damn. And then you start worrying. And it's really disconcerting because now you're worrying about that. And then you're sat there trying to get to sleep. And you're sat there going, I need to go to sleep. Switch off, brain. Switch off. Yeah. But the more you talk about it, the more it's going to sit there wiring itself and keeping yourself awake. And I've spent many hours just laying on my back thinking about stuff and going, please go to fucking sleep. You need to go to fucking sleep. This ain't working.
Yeah. What you have to do, I mean, where my depression is dug in deep is I still suffer terribly with insomnia, often for no good or readily apparent reason. And and often it's bringing up things I've not thought of in years to bother me with. So, oh, thanks for that. But I found it's kind of, you always think, well, I'll just turn over. I'll get to sleep. That doesn't work. What you have to do, you have to get up. You have to get up, go to a different room, read a book, play a video game, potter about online. I mean, I get up and do some work in the middle of the night. I have a cup of tea, and you'll be amazed, actually, that can just break that cycle and shut that voice up. And often, within less than half an hour, you sat in your armchair at your desk and you're sitting going, I'm really tired. And you just crawl off and you'll get straight back to sleep.
Yeah.
But if you just lie there, you'll get worse and worse and worse. Believe you me. You will see every hour come and pass in your own peculiar hell.
That is the worst. Watching the hours tick away.
I mean, they say, those small hours of the morning, they are called the dark night of the soul, and for good reason. Stephen King wrote a novel called Insomnia. And in that, there's a lot when I read that I go, yes, this someone understands. But he said, one of the things you don't realize until you have insomnia is that at 3 a.m, anything is possible. Yeah. Anything at all. And the worse it is, the more possible it seems to you. And that is just bang on the head. And, and that's the experience of so many people I know with depression that have that problem. But so I found you have to get out of bed. It's completely counterintuitive. You got to get up, maybe even get dressed. Sometimes even have a shower.
Yeah, that can
and
work,
literally completely reset and have a fresh approach to going to bed. I mean, I found for me, I had to have certain other sort of sleep hygiene rules to help.
Knock one out.
Yeah, well, that sometimes works. But as David Baddiel said, some nights I just toss and turn, and some nights I just toss and toss and toss. but it's I find kind of I generally stay off computers and video games in the evenings, a good few hours before I go to bed. I tend to actually find reading before I go to bed, and actually not just watching the TV helps as well. But it's also just having a going to bed sort of routine helps. It's not perfect. I still I'm up many times in the middle of the night, doing some research or doing some notes. But that does work. I mean, it doesn't take away the insomnia, but at least it means I do get a bit more sleep than I would get if I was just lying there in kangaroo court.
Yeah. Right. We're on our final minute for this session at the moment. So is it all right if we come back and carry on? Because I know there was a question from Mr. Medcalf in the chat room. I want to get to that as well. And
Okey-dokey.
I've got a few other things I'd like to hit upon as well. So
and you've got to tell your story as well.
Story?
You said you had a story.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's just okay. I'll get to that as well. Right. So everyone in the chat room, we're going to disappear for 15 minutes, have a liquid break of both ends, and we'll be back very, very soon.
Don't knock one out in the break.
No. I could do 3 or 4, I suppose. People listen to this on the podcast, just flip your cassette over and listen to side B, and we'll be back very, very soon. So thank you for listening for this one anyway. Thanks. Hello everyone, welcome back to the second part of this very, I don't want to call it depressing, but this talk, I think it's eye-opening for me, because I didn't really realise about knowing signs and seeing signs. So I'm learning tons on this. So if you losers ain't getting anything out of this, I don't care. This is therapy for me alone. That's it. That'll do me. And if it helps one person, then that person is me, then
yeah,
tough. That's fine by me. But I am still joined by Mr. Jim Moon.
Hello, folks.
And Mr. Lee Harvey.
Hello.
And yeah, we're talking about things that go along with depression. We're trying to keep it light and fluffy, but sometimes you have to dive into this dark, deep soul that sometimes rears its ugly head. And there was a question. I want to get to this question first, if you don't mind. Mr. Lee Metcalf put it in the chat room earlier on, about half hour ago. He says, do you find that there's a dark part of you that starts to indulge the darkness and then spiral down into to apathy, almost like you're preservedly, I can't pronounce that name. See, enjoying it. I think
perversely enjoying it.
Thank you. Sorry, my brain is going all mushy. I don't have that. I don't have them that tendency to enjoy or revel or just have any inkling. I don't want to be in that situation ever. I deeply detest being down, and I feel I'm normally a happy chappy, and I think that is my normal state. And anything below that, I not despise, but I don't like being down there. I suppose when I was younger, I liked to be perceived as like the moody one, the one that has the deep thoughts, but really doesn't have the deep thoughts. But he seems like he has the deep thoughts. But now it's just, I just want to be happy. And I suppose maybe wanting to be happy is maybe trying to strive a bit too high. Maybe I should just be content with not being manic depressive and on the edge of suicide. But I don't indulge in the darkness. Do you guys ever find yourself dipping your toe into that?
I have. I mean, I think a lot of people do, because you end up doing things that are self-destructive. It's one of those. The perversity of depression is never ending. But the best way I can describe it to people who've not been there is, when sometimes you've stubbed your toe on something, and it really, really hurts, and it makes you really angry, and you just want to actually kick the thing you stubbed your toe on, even though that'll actually hurt more than stubbing your toe. But it's that kind of reaction. Yeah. This is why, people, I mean, there's times, I know kind of, I should just stay in, try and get some sleep. I feel terrible. But I've sort of dragged myself to the shop and just come back with 2 bottles of whiskey and sat down and caned them and felt a whole lot worse. It doesn't work. But you think it might. Or if it makes me feel worse, I deserve it. Good. I might as well be really sick. I'm going to feel this shit.
Maybe you're just buying the wrong whiskey.
Yeah, well, I was at that stage. Yeah. Like white spirit coloured with tea. My mum's whiskey from the local shop. But, it is, I think it is part of that turning against yourself thing. And it is kind of, you want to punish yourself. And there's that kind of, there's a part of you that actually is like a little devil that is taking great delight in your own suffering. And that part of you will goad you to do things to make it worse. And it's, sometimes you just get tired of fighting. You think, bollocks, I'll just go with it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's
I don't think you ever sort of enjoy it. But you do, I think you feel like you rely on it sometimes. Like I've read a lot about, reasons why people don't want to get better, or you convince yourself that you don't want to get better because you don't know anything else. You only know being unhappy and hating yourself.
Is that because you know yourself as that person, and if you get rid of that, then you're kind of lost as to
Could
who
be.
you are.
Yeah, I think so. It's definitely some of that.
Maybe you feel comfortable in that state as well.
Well, it's,
and there's the thing about, yes, things are bad now, but if it stays like this, it won't get any worse. I know exactly how it is. Whereas if I try to get better, I could fail and it could get even worse.
Yeah, there is. I think you stick with what you know.
Yeah.
And that's partly why, people are resistant to, say, seeing a counsellor or taking some medication or seeing their doctor. And it is, it's kind of, I know what I'm getting where I'm currently at.
Yeah.
And being that kind of anxiety and fear of change is a big part of the problem. And it's kind of, I think depression is something it's a very icy condition. It sort of locks you in and freezes, shuts you down in a box.
Yeah, we're back to the anxiety of change as well, aren't we?
Yeah.
But I know kind of, particularly for like creative people, there is a big worry among people who are creative that, we have this great sort of stereotype of the tortured artist. And there is that thing of kind of, if I get better, will I lose those perceptions that make me who I am? And, that I think that kind of, that underlies across the board for everybody, that kind of, because it's so much part of you, to get rid of it seems like you would lose part of yourself. And it's such a strange condition.
Yeah.
And even, I've had it for years. I'm talking about it now. I'm thinking this sounds mental, you know what I mean? But it is, it's very, very strange. And depression almost does have its own sort of counter strategy of kind of, no, you're going to stay with me and I'm going to keep my hooks in you and it'll do everything to stay there. But I think you have to realize that part of my getting better was be able to draw a line of saying this bollocks in my head isn't the real me. Right. This isn't how I normally am. This isn't how I should be. And a big part of one of my sort of, I wouldn't say breakthroughs, because it's not that earth-shattering, but it was realizing kind of, I think people, when they, especially in the early days when they get depression, they do things to try and cheer themselves up and to be happy.
Yeah.
And to be honest, trying to be happy is a recipe to fail. You know what I mean? It's like saying, don't think of a red monkey. It's almost impossible not to think of a red monkey. And I found I thought, I'll stop aiming to being happy. I'll just aim for just a bit of bloody peace in my own head.
Yeah.
And that was a more neutral thing. And I sort of got one over on it when I started approaching it in that direction. Cause it's almost like having a troll in your head. And what's the golden rule with trolls? Don't feed the troll.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. Wow. Oh, a fucking troll living in your head as well. Little bastard. Lucky Minty. By the way, happy birthday, Lucky Minty.
Yes, happy birthday, Sarah.
Yeah. She's put in the chat room. One thing I've learned is not to take any reaction personally, as it never is. That's one thing I do struggle with. Is I don't know if it's because of this, but sometimes something is said to me and I take it literally, or I take it to the point where every single word is isolated and read and understood and gospel. And I sometimes find it hard to read between the lines, or maybe not in between the lines, but the overall situation of what is being said to me. And I struggle with that. Do you guys encounter that from time to time?
Yeah, I think I don't know about you, Elton, but I'm a very sensitive person in many different ways. But one of those is you take everything personally.
Yeah.
So even if, I was supposed to be playing in a Blood Bowl tournament last weekend in Wales, and I had the hotel for the Saturday night booked and the ticket for the tournament was paid and everything was done. But in the days running up to it, I asked a question on a forum thing, and people that I know just made a joke. And, I know these people well, and normally you just go, "Hi, that's funny." But because I was having a bad time, I took it really personally and cancelled going and didn't go to the thing in the end, just because of one little off remark.
Yeah.
Which is just utterly ridiculous, but you just take everything.
And it can be just one little remark though, can't it?
Yeah. Sometimes it's just a word. If I'm trying to think of a good example, I mean, somebody said to me once that I was unreliable. They didn't mean it in a sense of I was really bad. They were just trying to come up with a word to describe what they meant.
Yeah.
But I just took all the negativity with that.
The thing is, when you're down, people can give you a compliment and you don't believe it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People will be saying something genuinely nice to you, and you automatically, your brain spins it so it's a dig somehow.
Yeah.
Or you start having a dig about yourself, going, you're letting them down because you're not that at all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Which can also be perceived as you fishing for more compliments.
Yeah. I mean, I think kind of in my experience, what I find with people with depression is one of the problems is people don't talk about it to people closest to them because you're so hypersensitive and you're very sensitive about being seen as being whiny, moaning, a burden, bringing people down, and you make you bottle things up instead. I mean, looking into you saying, what can I, do to, help my friends who are depressed? And, just to address that, I mean, the thing is kind of don't get the hump with them when they're cancelling social engagements or, off the cuff, because sometimes it can be very difficult to get out of the house. But it's a lot of people I've spoken to over the years, they try and say, well, why are you depressed? What's the reason? Yeah. And often there isn't a good reason. I mean, there can be lots of things in life depressing you, but I've found, and I found this over the experience of years, that everything can be absolutely fine. And I can wake up and feel like I've just, to quote a Leonard Cohen song, like your dog's just died. Yeah. But there's nothing actually wrong. But you just feel like you've had the worst news imaginable. And it's very difficult to try and explain that there isn't always a reason for it. There might be things worrying you or stressing you, but there isn't like a practical problem about, well, you need to do this and that, and the other, and take care of that problem and your depression will go. It doesn't work like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's if you've got a cold, no one says, well, why have you got a cold? What's the reason? I don't know. I've just got a cold. It's an illness.
I mean, from my experience, my own, and so people I've known and suffered, I think the unanimous question is, if you've got a friend or a loved one who is depressed, get them to talk about it, get them to tell you everything as much as they're comfortable with, no matter how ridiculous it is. Don't be just sentimental. Don't necessarily, there might be something you can do to help, because sometimes when you're depressed, you do miss the obvious and you can make bad situations worse. And sometimes you do need a bit of help, like if you've got money worries. I know some people with depression have got into money trouble, and it's because they've not been able to get it together to pay a bill. They've got the money, but they just can't sort it out.
Yeah.
And so things like that you can do to help. But generally what we actually want to hear is just to, give us a hug and say, that really sucks. Yeah. Seriously, we don't really expect people to have magic wand solutions, but sometimes you do need a bit of help and support to get things sorted out, and that helps a lot. But often, you kind of just say, that must be terrible. That's horrible. Have a hug.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very simple, but it makes the world of difference, believe me.
One thing I would say, if you are going to be looking after somebody who is depressed, is that you have to look after yourself first, because you don't want to be, spending lots of time with somebody who is really depressed and then depressing yourself. Because it is. I've read a lot on the Mind website about, and the first thing that it says there for friends helping someone is look after yourself. I mean, my friend that I was talking about before, who helps me a lot, it's very good. She'll just say, I can't deal with this today. And just that honesty, I'm happy. I'm fine with that. I'd rather somebody just was honest, because you got other people you can talk to.
Yeah,
Because I know how to deal with that, if that makes sense. It's part of the anxiety and the worrying is if people are not honest, then it just causes a whole load of problems because you start worrying about it.
Yeah, which starts a spiral.
You start thinking, why don't they want to talk to me? Why is this? Why is that? If they just say, look, I'm tired, I'm feeling a bit down, I've got these problems, can I talk to you about this later? Or something like that. It cuts out that worry straight away, and then you can go, okay, I'll go and talk to someone else. That's fine.
Yeah. Chris brings up a good point in the chat room. He says, I have reasons for depression. Telling people is difficult. The last thing I want to do is bring someone else down. How should I approach communication? I have a few people volunteering to listen, but I can't bring myself to load them up. I don't want to load certain people up. And sometimes when you don't see people too often and you're always talking about that, then you become that person who's just talking about that all the time. Where sometimes if I ever do that, it's only because I don't see anyone else. In my work day, I don't have anyone that I can talk to, really. I have work colleagues, but they're few and far between and miles apart, and very rarely bump into them. And so I'm just talking with strangers all the time, and half the time they're just moaning at me because their lift isn't working. And so it's a very, I don't know, it doesn't work very well for my psyche at the moment. And then coming home and loading that up on certain people, that's not fair, I don't think.
Well, this is where I think there is, I know people are skeptical of therapy and counselors, but I think there is a huge benefit, and it's helped me in times of having someone I can go and see and offload to, and it's their job to listen.
Yeah.
Which sounds more callous and cruel than I thought. But you know what I mean? It's kind of, because they're a professional, because it isn't personal, it's kind of, I always felt I had permission to unload to them in the way I felt really bad about with the people closest to me. Because you think, oh, well, I moaned, we had that big chat the other week and I still feel terrible and they don't know what to say. I don't want to make them feel awkward. And what I've got to say is some really, really dark stuff and it's going to terrify them and they'll think I'm mad and blah, 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 or that's horrible. You know what I mean? And I think there is a value, there's a phrase, the comfort of strangers. Yeah. And, that is what counseling is for. I mean, people, again, like the medication, people have these pictures in heads of sort of bearded men with Austrian accents lying on a couch going, tell me about your mother. That isn't how it works. And, part of the reason I made progress is I was, I got it together and I had some very good counselors who helped me through, bad times. I mean, I could offload to and share things in a guilt-free way and just short circuit that sort of bottling that you get. I mean, I do know it is a really, I understand completely where you're coming from, Chris, because I mean, I've had very bad depressions, linked to, say, friends committing suicide in complicated and horrible circumstances. And most people I know don't want to hear that. They can't, they're not really equipped to deal with it because, I'm having a bad time because I'm not equipped to deal with it. You know what I mean? It's, and I understand kind of, you don't want to, you get very sensitive about, making things worse. I mean, as I said, that's one of the real, when I'm sort of observing other people around me, and at times I've seen people drifting into depression, one of the warning bells for me is that kind of shutting up, that closing off of that kind of whitewashing. Oh, I'm fine, blah, blah, blah. How about you? Mm-hmm. And deflection, because I know it, I recognize it, because I'm a master at it myself.
Yeah, I've done that as well. Many times. One thing I think we touched on it earlier on about not massive highs, shall we say. You said that you get big flows of energy that you can just work and work and work and work and feel like you've completed stuff. Do you ever get the 10-minute massive high?
Oh yes, I've had that. I've had many of those.
What about you, Lee? Have you had them?
Not really, to be honest.
Because they're weird. I feel I will be driving to work or at work or just sat watching TV or somewhere, and all of a sudden I'll get way too overexcited, almost giddy with excitement for no reason whatsoever. And I can't work out why. There's no reason for it, but I will be excited about something. And it's like the feeling when I was 10 or 12 and it was Christmas Day tomorrow.
Yes,
and
exactly.
it was, oh my God, I'm really excited. And you tense up and you're just really looking forward to something, but you don't know what it is. And
G.K. Chesterton called it the sense of absurd good news.
Really?
Yeah. Of those sudden feelings you get where it's like a sudden wave of elation that just pop up.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it's kind of like a bounce back from when you've been sort of down or kind of in that kind of flat mode. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly you get this bubble of normal perception very intensely and everything's amazing for 10 minutes. 10-minute flyers, I call it. And you get really excited about something. Yeah, I can do that. Blah, 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 you know, and whatever you do in that mood, don't go on Amazon. You'll end up buying something from your childhood you don't really want or something you don't really need. But, you suddenly think you're going to become a golfer. And before you know it, you've ordered a full set of clubs and a pair of silly trousers.
And a Mercedes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You've bought all the kit and it's not going to happen. Yeah. But I think sometimes, though, it's a bit more external, that you just have a moment where all your anxieties have been just pushed to the side. And suddenly you get a flash. It's not super excitement. It's just actually normal perception again. And that's a massive relief. And relief is one of the best feelings in the world.
Just being able to concentrate on things.
Yeah. Just being outside of yourself. I mean, where I live, it's at the edge of town. It was a village and now it's being subsumed by the town. But to walk to the local shops, I go past a big village green with old cottages and old churches to get to the shops. And I've been, sat online getting stressed to fuck. I'm driving myself mad because things aren't going bad. Well, I'm doing my own head in. The social media is full of news that's appalling. You're terrified you're going to get raped by some crack-addicted Nazi pit bull or something. And, the world's in strife, the globe's polluted, everything's going to shit. And I go for a walk, and I often have that feeling of absurd good news when I walk past that green, because birds are singing, people are walking the dogs, everything's fine where I am.
Yeah.
And sometimes, sometimes that's what you need. And I think that's another very important, it's a difficult one because, as we've said, getting out the house can be a fucking nightmare. But it's something Bill Oddie, who suffers from depression, has said that's helped him is find your own little haven, your own little bit of nature. It doesn't have to be a lot, just a little lane, a little wood, a little garden, a nice little walk down some quiet streets, but somewhere where you can go and you realize actually normally everything isn't terrible.
Yeah, I have that going back to my parents' house. That's where I find that I have that little haven. Just walking around them streets, just remembering being a kid around there, that always brings me back down and it levels me off a little bit. But Dorian has asked, do we ever get do we ever feel even more down after the 10-minute flyer? And I don't think I do. I have the elation of something happening and I'm all giddy with excitement. And it tapers off, but it'll taper off for the rest of the day. And then I'll just hit it'll taper off, it'll be about towards the end of the day when I'm going home from work that I'll realise, hang on, I don't feel like that anymore. And I want that again. It's almost like an endorphin rush that you really crave again. And that, it doesn't make me sad that that's not coming back. I know it will come back at some point, and it's kind of exciting not knowing when it's going to come back again, because it could be anywhere. And I could be doing anything. I could be watching anything. I could be out anywhere, and it will pop up. But yeah, I'll just have. I don't have a massive dip after it. It just tapers off for me.
I don't sure I have a dip, but when I've had them, when I'm been in a really, really bad, having a really bad time, it does really badly suck when they go. Because you just have that, it's like suddenly you get a chink of light. You know what I mean? In absolute darkness. And then it goes again. It's like, shit. But most of the time it just give you a bit of a recharge of the batteries. I mean, part of my little victories thing was like trying to identify things that would trigger those moments of respite. Yeah. And sort of try and have more of them. I mean, you know, I kind of found you know, sometimes just, if I could just get out the house and go for a walk around a local park, I could just take myself out of myself for a brief time to give myself a breather. And that helped. Or, just, you know, actually having a proper bath. You know what I mean? Where you run a really deep, long bath, fix yourself a drink. You got your book, you got some candles on, you got some nice relaxed music, and just sit and enjoy having a bath. Yeah. That could do it as well. So that was a lot of work, so it didn't often happen, admittedly. But you know what I mean? You kind of you start small and work up. But I think there's a writer called Colin Wilson, who's kind of a philosopher, and in his books he talks a lot about what he calls peak experiences, of these moments of where it is like being a kid at Christmas again. And he kind of has the theory of kind of, you know, you can, and according to psychology, you can learn to induce these and become more open to them. And I think kind of part of my strategy was kind of try to do that kind of thing of try to find things that take yourself out of yourself and just, you know, give you a spark and a bit of energy. And it might only be momentary, but if you can get enough little ones, it holds back the tide a bit.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really get those highs, so so I don't have the come down from it, I guess. But I often find or notice if you do something really good that I can't sort of celebrate it or feel really great about it. Sort of the opposite. So if a small thing goes wrong, I will blow that up into a massive thing, and it's I'm terrible and I'm rubbish. But if you do something good, it's just, well, that's how things should be.
Yes,
that's normal.
Yeah.
So you can't feel good about something, but you can feel absolutely terrible about nothing.
Do you know, I get that about driving sometimes when you go through lots of green lights and you get to somewhere really quick, and you're like, why can't it be like that all the time?
Yeah.
Why do people have to get in the way? Why, when I want to get cash out the hole in the wall, then there's 4 people there and they're all faffing around? Why not get your cards out before you get to the hole in the wall? And it's just, when you go there and it just works, why can't it always be like that?
Yeah.
That's how it should be all the time.
So thinking like when I was playing cricket and bowled someone out, and I've never done it before, and you used to think, brilliant, that's fantastic. But I think, well, that's what I was trying to do. You know, that's just a normal thing that should happen. But if you bowl a wide or you do something stupid, it's like, oh God, I'm terrible. I think that's depressing. Is that how it warps your mind so that you notice all the negative things?
Yeah.
Mr. So I found you have to give yourself credit, and as I said, that's where the little victories come in. You start off with banal, stupid things, but always, you know, say, well, actually, there's that, and you have to build it up slowly, and it takes time, and it, like Jenga, it often gets knocked down. But I found it's kind of with depression, it's not optimism, it's not courage, it's not peace of mind. What will get you through more than anything else is a sense of sheer bloody mindedness that it's not going to win. And, you know, we were talking about this kind of like peak experiences, but I had a long time where I didn't have one of those for a long time. It was just like flat and lower. But it is possible to wrest it back, but you have to give yourself that kind of credit. I mean, for me, I think I do credit a lot of my kind of recovery and good management now is that, is doing the podcast.
Yeah.
You know, and doing podcasting because, I mean, the number of times I've been feeling absolutely shit, but then someone just pops up going, really enjoyed that episode. And it's kind of, oh, brilliant. That's tangible. That's real evidence. You know what I mean? Suck on that. I did something good. Screw you, depression.
Yeah.
And then it's been a huge, huge benefit to me. And it's something I will always be thankful for. And it's something I'm still always amazed by because I'm still a depressive and everything I do is obviously rubbish and shit. But you know what I mean? It's kind of the fact that, you know, people do listen and people do enjoy it and I can, you know, make people laugh. That's kind of, that's a big stick in my arsenal.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. Just for the people listening, Lee's dropped off for some reason. The
computer crash.
Yeah, his computer's crashed. So I'll wait for him to jump back on. Hopefully he'll be on it very soon. But yeah, I do get pleasure from doing this. Now I'm doing it. I'm absolutely fine. But the hour just before, I'm like, hoping someone might bail. I don't know, but I think that's why I haven't been doing this weekly because I need someone to. I've got that in you guys with the Black Dog and Andy with the Grand Prix and the Band of Brothers that we're going to be doing as well. I know you guys and he will kick my ass to get this going, and it's not that I don't want to do it. It's just, I just need a kick up the arse to get to do it. And when I do stick it out and when you do get, I don't do this for the praise. I do this because I hope and I feel that people enjoy it and they get something out of it. They get something out of, idiots talking on into microphones over Skype, and it works for certain people, and it's better than the radio at the moment, or it's a different avenue for the radio. And it's not that I sit at home and I press publish and then just sit back and watch all the numbers drop up and think, yeah, man, I'm fucking amazing. I'm a god. I don't do that at all. I don't even think about that at all. Sometimes I press publish and think, oh god, what's people going to think about that? And sometimes it's quite nice not having any feedback about it because it's okay. Well, that one slipped under the net. Excellent.
It's one of the, I rarely look at my reviews on iTunes. I have a very kind of, I don't care about the stats because I just don't, you know what I mean? I do it because I enjoy doing it and because other people enjoy it. And, I mean, that's how I got started in podcasting. And listening to podcasts was part of my recovery, was that I found, I could have a room full of friendly voices talking about things that I liked in a way that sounded like my mates talking. And it was a real lifeline. You know what I mean? Podcasting, kept me sane through some very dark times indeed. Lots of great podcasts I listened to. And, then I started, I got a lot of personal confidence back just by feeding back to podcasts, really initially just to say, thanks guys. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And then people say, oh, really good feedback. And I thought, oh, maybe I'm not such a loser after all. You know what I mean? And it lets me do my own show. And it still amazes me now that people listen to my waffle. But it's something I take great comfort from. And I'm really, really happy to do it because I was on the other end of the microphone for many years. Now you're listening to other people who are, entertaining and informing me and, bringing friendship and fun into my house in a very intimate way. Because
Yeah.
I mean, that's the magic of podcasting. It's like radio, but it's not shackled by the conventions of radio, whereas it's now on BBC4, more bollocks and blah, 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 blah. Or, hey, great bang, yes, top 10 hit from another chart muppet. Yeah, bollocks. You can hear a podcast on something you are actually interested in by people who are actually interested in it.
Yeah, that's right. Well, can I say, your waffle is some of the best waffle out there.
Definitely. I spent a lot of time actually just walking the streets of Southampton listening to the Black Dog when I've been quite down and laughing my head off at the conversations that you guys have.
Yeah. I've done that as well. I've done that on many things. It's, doing this like this, that's why I do it live, so people can get involved in it as well and feel like they're involved in it. And that makes me happy as well. So doing it makes me happy. So I suppose that is part of my own self-discovery and what is going on and what balances me out a little bit. And if I could have it all set up all the time and then just jump on every night and do half an hour every night, I probably would, but I have to pack it all away and then get it out. And that's the mission that that's the wall that I have to climb every time I do this. And sometimes that wall can be a little bit too high for me to climb over and get to the other side. But there was something, because we're talking about the podcasting thing, and there was a comment about from Mr. Metcalf about social media, and he said, "Do you guys think social media adds to it because you gain attention by announcing that you're down?" I think it's easier for people to turn around and say that they're feeling down, but I feel sometimes I do type stuff out and then delete it. Sometimes I do stick it on there and then feel like a massive knob for putting it on there as well, and don't want the attention, but I haven't got anyone to talk to, so I just want to say that. And I'd love to be able to turn comments off sometimes.
Tell you what I find Facebook very useful for. I follow a few pages that deal with depression and things like that, and you read an article that will say lots of useful things that you want other people to know, but I don't know how to put it into words, or I don't want to really talk to someone about something, but I can just share that article on Facebook, knowing that the people who I want to see it will see it. And it means I can get across the things that I'm going through to people without me having to actually sit there and explain everything badly. So that's quite useful.
I mean, generally, I find I don't tend to post very personally, because it's that terrible sort of thing of kind of, you don't want to say, "Oh, I'm having a really bad time," then because what is it? And then you don't want to tell them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's kind of, it has to be something fairly major, and it's probably going to be affecting something I'm doing sort of professionally that I will sort of make sort of, that those sort of remarks. But, it's kind of, I think it's probably different for generations below us who are sort of more just growing up with Facebook and social media as being normal.
Yeah.
Well, I'm still I'm in my 40s and therefore suspicious of this new sorcery at heart. You know what I mean? It's kind of, one thing, all my friends, you have a few drinks and someone always brings up the conversation of, aren't you glad we didn't have Facebook when we were teenagers? Because we would have made such dicks of ourselves in every conceivable way. And it'd be there permanently online.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to my boy growing up and just seeing what he's sticking on there, or on other places where his dad isn't on as well. I think that's what's going to happen. It's not going to be on Facebook. It's going to be on somewhere like Snapchat or Instagram that I'm not really heavily present, I suppose. Maybe even Bebo. They might bring back Bebo. I don't know.
MySpace, yeah.
Finger on the pulse.
With that social media thing, there was. Do you think that celebrities made it ever so cool to have either bipolar or depression or such, because there was a spat of minor celebrities having it and it being their calling card and what they are all about. Now, I'm not saying that is what they're trying to do and they're playing on it and they're making money off of it. It's because they're going through it and they need to vent out, and maybe that is their only way of doing it, of getting attention so they feel good about themselves to remove that. Everyone else is different. But it's like when, what's her name? Cheryl Cole caught malaria. Everyone else wanted to catch malaria because it was the cool thing to have. I'm like, what? There was, from my personal opinion, there was a spat of people going through the bipolar and everyone was being diagnosed with the bipolar. Did you guys catch that at all?
Yeah, there was also kind of a bit of a fad for it. That I think probably on balance, because it's died off a bit now, it probably did more good than it did harm, I think. I think for me, certainly from people I've talked to over the years, Stephen Fry did a documentary on his own experience with depression. Mm-hmm. And I think that was kind of a bit of a landmark in the way people viewed mental illness in general. Because, everyone knows Stephen Fry. He's big, he's fluffy, very clever man, very genial, very laid back. And yet he has times where he feels very successful, but he feels, useless, worthless, blah, blah, blah. And, he was very candid, very honest. And he talked, he roped in a lot of other sort of name figures and got them to say, well, actually, I've gone through the same. Yeah. And I think that helps normalize it. I think in the wake of that, inevitably, people try to jump on the bandwagon, but if they weren't as quite as sincere as that, it didn't register, if you know what I mean.
I don't know. There was just, I suppose there was, I can't even remember their names now, but there was just a spat of people just, it felt like their way of selling magazine covers and getting money for it, and
like getting in the newspapers, that kind of thing.
Yeah, now that could be a way of dealing with it. Good luck to them. I'm not going to buy them papers, so they haven't sold it to me. But it's sometimes it's putting it in the general public and people can see it, and so it becomes normalized, and so that is a good thing. But when people see that it is becoming normalized and maybe a trivial thing, then that kind of harms it a little bit.
Well, especially when it is kind of, I remember Paul Gascoigne at one stage was claiming he was obsessive compulsive disorder.
Yeah.
And I thought, no, you just pissed all the time, really. Come on. You know what I mean? But there is that kind of people like to fetishize things in that way, and then that kind of thing does trivialize it, and it does kind of so shall we say so career moaners. I mean, Morrissey, very talented man, but he did certainly trade on that kind of worst cliches of teenage angst for a long time.
Yeah.
I know a lot of the time he was being ironic and his tongue was in his cheek, but a lot of people didn't get that and just saw him as being a pretentious twat, moaning about shit.
Yeah.
And serial bedwetters, Coldplay, and that whole kind of sort of indie genre of people, whinging. I mean, a like friend of mine, we were really into Smashing Pumpkins. First album, Gish, brilliant alternative rock album. Next album, Siamese Dream, masterful. And then Billy Corgan starts doing all these interviews, moaning on about how terrible his life is. And my friend said, yeah, Billy, it must be fucking so hard, fucking earning millions of dollars, playing in a band with your mates. Fucking try living in Lancaster, being psychotic on the dole. Then you'll know what being depressed about, you fucking cunt.
I always thought of just Kurt Cobain just being a miserable git.
Cobain's another one, and the whole cult of Kurt Cobain really does irritate me, because it's that kind of, that's glamorizing all the petty aspects of depression, and it's kind of, I know he had a bad time, but Jesus, you know, you did have millions of dollars. That does help, I think. I know money isn't a cure for depression, but fucking hell, it must help somewhat, you know, come on.
Yeah. I mean, do you think that whole emo movement has done any, as good or bad? You know,
well,
I think teenagers think it's cool to be sad and miserable.
Well, I suppose emo is just a watered down version of goth, really. It's just less literary.
Yes, it's more emojis and smiley text.
Yeah. But I think, though, it's kind of, when you're a teenager, you want to belong. You want to wear your colours on your sleeve, your heart on your sleeve, and, you know, you'd throw into a particular subculture tribe that, you know, upheld the things you're interested in. And I think kind of even with things like, you know, say goth and emo, which, you know, it's easy. People go, oh, please, sulky teenagers, stop it. You're wallowing in it. Get on with it. But at the same time, you know, for them, that is how they deal with it. And, you know, if it gets them out of the house and they meet like-minded people and they can recognize each other, that's probably a good thing. That will, you know, save a lot. It's a lot better than just being stuck, isolated, thinking you're all on your own. And never going out, you know, if you can, you know, you can do your hair this way, wear this t-shirt, go and see these bands, you can meet other people and you can be accepted. And, you know, that's a positive thing. Although, I mean, I know I'm getting old and grumpy about these things, but, you know, I did it when I was younger and it helped. You know, you can tell at a glance someone's on your wavelength. And, I think these days for young people, now everything's such more fragmented. Those sort of youth tribes, as it were, that I grew up with are a lot less, all the edges are a lot more blurred now, I think, than what they used to be.
Yeah.
So maybe that's not quite as a good thing. You know what I mean? It's harder to find like-minded people, but now you can do it via the internet. And to go back to social media, I mean, certainly I sort of found sort of getting involved on Twitter and Facebook meant that I could meet people and I didn't have to leave the house and meet people who I liked and behaved nicely and talked about interesting things. And, you know, I made so many friends, you know, online, you know, at a time when, especially, you know, the early 21st century, it was still kind of, it was like going to a dating site, talking to people online. It was seen to be, you're a sado. You know, you're not web surfing. You're typing in a bedroom. You're talking to people. He's probably a 40-year-old trucker who wants to bum your ass. And there was that real cynicism from a lot of people about talking to other people online. And we've won and they're lost. So fuck you lot. We're all wrong. We won that one.
Right. Well, we're coming up to the last 10 minutes. So I just want to ask you two guys, and maybe even the chat room if they want to wade in on this as well. Is there anything that you could, how am I going to put this? Trying to educate other people that don't really know how to step forward and speak to like-minded people like ourselves who are suffering and other people that are suffering. What would you say to them on how to go about? What one thing would you say to maybe encourage them to talk about it, or encourage them to step away, or what would you say to them? Just one thing.
Well, I mean, I'm still going through it, really. I mean, so I'm trying to work it all out myself, but somebody said you don't get over it. It's not cured, it doesn't go away, but you learn how to manage it and how to deal with it.
Right.
And that is the battle that you have to go through.
Yeah, well, yeah, I suppose it's.
But I'm still discovering that myself. So
it's like having a messy under the stairs cupboard. Once the doors close, it's all still messy under there.
Yeah,
but it's locked away for now. And sometimes the mop will fall down and open that door.
Yeah, I'm not talking about hiding it. But
no. But sometimes you'll drop out of it.
Then it's kind of like what Jim was talking about earlier about knowing those triggers. And knowing when to do what, to do these different things, and noticing those times.
Yeah. What about you, Jim? What would you recommend?
I would say is kind of the worst thing you can do is keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
That's absolutely number one. You've got to find someone to talk to about it, whether that's going to your doctor, which, you know, you shouldn't be afraid to do. That's their job. You know what I mean? They're completely impersonal. They are professional. Do it. And if you get one who's a bit crap, ask to see another one. Or, you know, find, you know, someone, you know, to talk to about it. But don't just sit and bottle it up on your own, and don't think it'll just go away, because it probably won't. It'll probably get a lot worse. And for me, it's kind of, you know, like they're saying, the first step for alcoholics is recognizing you have a problem. That's the first step in the famous 12-step program. And that's true of everything in life, actually, not just depression, but especially depression in particular. It wants to isolate you. That's what it wants. It's a mind virus, but you can beat it, and you can beat it with the help of other people. You know, find someone, whoever it is, but just please don't keep to yourself, because that's the worst thing you can do.
Yeah. Bottling up is, I think it's taking that step to realize that you're bottling it up. It's understanding where you're from. Sometimes you have to go through it, like I did. I went through it as a teenager, and then didn't really hit it until later on in life. And then only then did I realize, hang on, back in the 90s, I was depressed, but I didn't realize it at the time.
No,
it was just a thing that I was feeling. And so, trying to spot that, and you might have to go through it a couple of times to really understand what's going on. But I suppose with other people not having it and coming up to me, I'd say just be patient with it. Just not too much, you know, don't take any of my shit, crying out loud. Don't let me do that. I'm a massive knob if I really want to be, but be patient when I am having like a bad episode, or that person is having a bad episode. Even try and recognize that they are having that bad episode, and then just let's change scenery. Let's do something else and change your mind space about it. So that's what I would recommend anyway. So I think we should draw it to a close here.
Okay.
If that's all right with you guys.
Can I just say one thing that was very useful for me?
Yeah.
I think it's used for a lot of people. Is we all suffer with stress, anxiety. We sometimes have problems sleeping. It can be particularly acute for people with depression. But there is something you can do. And I know there's lots of relaxation tapes and new age music and meditation, and all things are fine and they're very helpful. But often you can't do them when you need them most, i.e. when you're in the local shop, the fluorescent light is too bright and everything's turning into a David Lynch film on you. And your anxiety is going through the roof. But this you can, because it's simple. And it is a breathing exercise, but it's very simple. You only have to be able to count to 4. Okay? Now, most people, the problem is we don't breathe properly, which means we don't get enough oxygen, which means our brains don't work properly, and we get panicked. And we breathe from the top of our lungs. Now, you can test this. If you lie down, you put one hand on your chest, one on your tummy, and breathe. And you'll find, for most people, it's the hand on your chest that moves. That's wrong. You're breathing wrong. You should be breathing from your diaphragm. It should be your tummy moving. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
When you're stressed, what you have to do is this. You breathe in from your tummy. And you can practice this at home and make sure the hand on your chest stays still and the one on your tummy moves. And you breathe in for a count of 4. You hold it for a count of 2. You breathe out for a count of 4. And then pause for a count of 2. Now, you can do that as quick or slow as you like. Whatever, it has to be comfortable. But just do that rhythm. And the thing is, medically, physically, those pauses between breathing in and breathing out give your body a chance to absorb all the oxygen. And that actually helps calm your body down. It will lower your heart rate. It will lower your blood pressure. And it gives you something to think about, because it's a simple counting exercise to take your mind off all that crazy shit that's going blah, 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 in the back of your mind and stressing you out. And I mean, I've used that so many times over the years, and it's simple and you can do it anywhere. You don't have to be lying down or anything like that. Once you just know, you just breathe through your diaphragm and your chest stays still. Very easy to do that. And you can count to 4 and count to 2. You're sorted.
Right. I'm definitely going to be giving that a go.
You can also use it to help you get to sleep as well if you're having trouble sleeping.
Cool. Right.
There you go.
Thank you very much, Dr. Moon. Okay, so yeah, we've only got like less than 4 minutes now. So I'm going to draw it to a close. Thank you so much, guys. That was flipping amazing. And I will be dropping off my £70 each to you later for my therapy session that I've had here. Is there anything that you guys would like to plug? Lee, have you got anything to plug, or is it just maps? Has he dropped off? Oh, he's crashed again. Okay, well, that's sorted that one out. Jim, would you like to plug away on what you've got in your wares, please?
You can hear my own podcast, the Hypnagoria podcast, out every week on weird fiction and all things weird and wonderful. And you can find that on iTunes, or on Geek Planet Online, and on Stitcher.
Nice. And I would highly recommend it as well.
Oh, thank you.
Always recommend that. I'd also recommend go and listen to the Black Dog podcast with myself and Jim, Mr. Lee Metcalf, and Darren Barnard as well. Listen to us moan and talk and laugh about films. Please download this in iTunes and visit all the stuff that I do over at RogueTwo.com as well. We've got Band of Brothers podcast coming out very soon as well. We've done one episode, and that was about Saving Private Ryan, which leads on to Band of Brothers. We're recording Monday, part 1 of Band of Brothers. So if you want to get any feedback in, then send it over to RogueTwoMedia@gmail.com, or you can join the Facebook group over there as well, at facebook.com/groups, and I think it's /Band of Brothers podcast. If I haven't got that set up yet, just search out for it. You'll be able to find it. Thank you to everyone who's joined us in the chat room. Thank you for sticking with us and listening to us. Not moan on, I don't think. I think it's just
we covered a lot of ground, I think.
I think we have, yeah.
I hope it's been helpful. I really do. Sincerely hope it has been helpful.
Yeah, let us know if it's been helpful. Let us know if us talking about this has helped you or opened your eyes, or just maybe brought something to your attention. Let us know on the Facebook group that we have over at the Facebook, which is groups/Shonky Lab. If you do want to join us on Mixlr next time out, it's mixlr.com/RogueTwoMedia. And I think I'm doing 2017 upcoming movies, but it's going to be very early in the morning as well. So please join us for that at some point. I'll let you know over at the Facebook group. And until then, thank you to Lee, who seemed to have dropped off. Thank you, Jim, for joining me as well.
My pleasure.
And it just leaves me to say, please leave quietly. This is a residential area.
Bye.
Oh, he's on.
Hey,
oh,
back.
there he is.
Hey.
Oh, you made it. Oh, what a shame. Anyway, thanks, guys. See you later. Bye.